Hi, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from Mason Works Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone with my dear friend Olivia Parr-Rud. Hi, Olivia.
Hi, Kathy.
So Olivia and I today want to introduce you, and mostly Olivia, obviously, to her new work, which, and she has quite a few books. We'll talk about that too, but her new work called Love at Work. And Olivia, so let's start with you have been a database scientist, a specialist in data science for years and years and years, and then you decided after writing those kind of books with Wiley and these other, high level business books, you decide to write a book about love at work. So how did that happen?
Well, that's a great question. And it's funny because between the time I made the decision and the time I wrote it was 7 years of
Oh, okay.
thinking about what were all the blocks that got in the way. So just to give you a little bit of history, I was always this kind of spiritual seeker, earth mom. And then I wanted to go back. I enjoyed working in the corporate world, and I decided to go back to school, and I got a degree in statistics and got recruited by a credit card bank. And suddenly I was on the global stage as a data science expert in the early 90s. And I had to really shut down this kind of open-hearted spiritual side of myself just to survive because the culture was so fear-based. And I could see that it really didn't help the company either to be in that space. But I was new and naive and young and didn't really know how to handle it. So I went through a lot of stress. And over the years, I gained more confidence, and I was speaking globally about data science, and I started pitching topics on some of the softer skills that I felt were needed in business, like good communication and creativity, collaboration, things like that. And these companies would, these companies that produce these conferences would ask me to do talks on all these topics, and sometimes even do half day or 1 day workshops. And I loved it, but I really couldn't monetize it. And so I kind of pulled back, and I decided to write a book on that based on a keynote I did at a data conference. I got invited to write a book by Wiley. So this was before Love at Work. This was the book I wrote called Business Intelligence Success Factors, which was kind of an academic version of Love at Work. So it uses a lot of science, quantum
Uh-huh.
physics, evolutionary biology, chaos theory, systems theory, to kind of appeal to the left brain why we need these human factors. It was also around that time that I actually, before I wrote it, that I got this aha where I felt like my worlds came together, and where I saw how data and technology was forcing companies to change so much faster that these human skills became more important. So if you think about 70 years ago, 50 years ago, manufacturing was very simple. People could be replaced easily. Now everybody needs to know how to use a computer. So our human skills are much more important, and everybody's so specialized that we need to communicate better. So I wrote the academic version of Love at Work. It didn't do that well. I never really liked the title, but and I think it was a little too soon for the concepts. And then
Uh-huh.
I kept doing the data science work, and I got invited by SAS to write a technical book. And by then, this was 2013, I knew I was going to come out with something really different. This concept of love in business. So I wrote this technical book to just sort of reestablish myself as an expert, because I want to reach people who are interested in making money and might not be in the choir of conscious business already.
Right.
I'm trying to appeal to the maybe people that are more closed-hearted and shut down, and I'll come in and say, well, actually, if you embrace this concept, you will make more money. And
Yeah.
so my
Yeah.
hope is that it'll open up other things for them. And I've seen this happen where people who have are sort of forced into personal growth, have great breakthroughs and find their hearts and things like that. So then in around 2013, 2014, I started coming up with a final outline for Love at Work. And then when I started writing it, it really just took over, and it was a little scary. Like, I couldn't control the writing. It
Right.
was coming through me. And I remember when I finished it and I sent it off to this woman that helped me publish it, and she said, I said, just tell me if it makes sense, because I can't even follow what I wrote. And so it's like that heart-based book that kind of does make sense now. And this method came out. So, what I call the Love at Work method. And I do have the follow up book just came out, which is the Love at Work method with exercises and practices and things.
Handbook. Uh-huh.
But the Love at Work method, which I introduce in Love at Work, is 4 steps that spell love. So love all of yourself, and that's really the core. Is this need to love ourselves and heal everything that gets in the way of that. And then own your superpowers, so find your gifts, find out what it is you really love to do, that you're good at, that the world needs, and then visualize your inspired purpose. So that may be where you want to show up in service, and how you can use your gifts to make the world a better place. And then engage with your tribe, and that's ways to get your work out. Kind of what we're doing right now is
Right.
my
Right.
tribe, as far as conscious business.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, love is a word that usually isn't used in corporate America. I ran that division of Arthur Andersen, and I also worked at IBM different times, and those words, it was almost taboo because of the sexual harassment worry.
Yeah.
So how did you? So you just found that the self-love is the core starting point. Is that how it came to you, that without that you couldn't have co-creation in the workplace, in teams? It seems like 10, 15, maybe more than 15 years ago, teams were the whole concept in business. It went from that hierarchy to team,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 20 years, maybe more. Is that when you started to find that in order to be in a team, you needed these aspects, these concepts to be anchored, to be a participant in a team?
I would say definitely. If you think about, I mentioned a little while ago the complexity and how we can't do it all by ourselves anymore. And so we really have to team up with others, whether that's official or unofficial.
Right.
And it, everyone is in some sort of a relationship, and we know, and teams are one type of relationship where if we get triggered by stuff, much of it being unconscious, we're not going to be able to show up as our best self. So part of my, I'll just share, back in the 90s, I was in meditation asking, like, I hate the corporate world. It's just so horrible. Why am I here? Why can't I get out? And my guide said, or spirit said, this is where you need to be to learn the skills to do your real work. And I thought, oh, that's
Oh, what's that?
12 years to figure out my real work. And so part of being in the corporate world forced me to do things that terrified me all the time. So I was kind of the financial breadwinner for a while when my husband was ill. And so I was feeding everybody and housing everybody. And so I needed to keep myself going in the corporate world. Otherwise, I probably would have run away and hid. But it was a great place. The pressure made me do so much healing work. I share in my book how I was under so much stress in the 90s. I went to sleep every night listening to affirmations tapes. It was Louise Hay saying,
Yep.
love myself. You love yourself, but it started to work. And then I just found ways to start learning to love myself, because I share in my book too how I had a lot of abandonment as a child, just people dying, my parents dying. And yeah, so I was kind of dealing with abandonment issues. And those have, the corporate world was sort of this pressure cooker that forced me into healing. And I still have work to do, I'm sure we all do, but I'm much less reactive. And in a team, that's so important to be able to know what is it that's ours and what is it that's the other person, and finding that balance of setting boundaries and knowing what's our stuff and what's other people's stuff, and
Right.
for the self-love comes
And
from.
it's all in our hologram anyway. So,
Yeah,
I mean, for us to show up and share our gifts, we have to be clear. And
yes,
that's what all of those other triggers that you talk about, they do not allow you to be present in any way.
yes,
You're in the past if you're
yeah,
triggered, usually. So,
right.
and what this does is give you ways to be present
Mm,
so you can share your gifts, right?
yeah, right. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I know that you've taken other classes on conscious business, and this is Conscious Business Zone. How do you see this work working in conscious business? Do you see it um, as a way for managers or owners to bring their people together? How do you see? Because I love your work. I love the whole simplicity and the logical way it's presented. It is not woo-woo, it is usable, not tactical, but almost
Action.
very actionable. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Perfect. So how do you see, because that's what I love the idea of 5 years from now, everyone in a corporate environment has read this and at least uses that language and
Mm,
can meet somebody at least halfway there.
yeah. Well, and I want to give a shout out to Brene Brown for really opening up the concept of vulnerability, which and the word love is now being used a little bit more in business. And I was guided to make the title provocative, and so I feel like it's individual work, but in the step 4, engage with your tribe, it gives people ways to engage either in their own workplace or outside of it. So I think it could be foundational for every business to just have them go through, especially the self-love part. I think if people really just worked on that, it would create so much of a better environment and more success in business, because I
Right.
feel like I was saying, we've got to work together now. Everything's too complex to do it alone. And if we can't understand how other people think, so you've been in business, right? Think about how IT and marketing, they speak different languages. And
Right.
if they don't understand each other's goals and can sort of almost feel into what their pains and struggles are, it's just so much easier if we are happy with who we are and then can invite others even to be maybe critical of us or act out against us, and we don't take it personally. Or that's one of the things I work on, is not getting triggered by other people's upsets, seeing what it is in me that's maybe getting triggered, work on that, but also hold space for that other person. And so yeah, I think this kind of foundational work could be really helpful for a lot of businesses.
Well, I know when I was at Arthur Andersen, and of course this was 20 years ago, there were funds for managers to take classes.
Mm.
And one of the classes I took was a class where the gentleman showed up in a robe and a turban at Arthur Andersen. And
Wow.
it was, yeah, it was something like, I don't have his book here. His name was Mahan Khalsa, and he was bought out by Franklin Covey. So his process was really good.
Mm.
And what I found was that class was in fact, I still have all the workbooks from it because I was so impressed with it. And someone was so far ahead that they said, yes, this is the kind of personal development we want. We want people making powerful choices for themselves and not being in fear and not and changing the whole paradigm of the victimization. Because
Mm.
I think that's what you're going to find in most cases, is that fear is really victimization.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's in our global consciousness.
Yes.
So, yeah, I love what you're doing. Do you find that people they currently, there was a lot of other programs that were lip service, and
Mm.
especially for women. There was a lot of, if you're a mom, they want you to work 80 hours a week, even though you're a mom, but here's your focus group. It's like, and I was a single mom
Mm.
traveling, and I had 80 employees under me. And here, yeah, yeah. And there was, I could do this focus group. Not. So do you find that too? I don't know, it's been a long time, so hopefully things have gotten better. But do you find that?
Yeah, I think it's mixed. There are some of the, I think what I'm seeing is a lot of the tech companies have better work environments because they're really trying to attract the top talent. And they know that the top talent today
Has
want
choices.
more work-life balance. They want, even if they're analysts, they want to be creative, they want connection, they want work to be fun and playful, which I think it can be,
Right.
especially
Right.
in technology where, yeah, you're just kind of creating anyway. So I do think, though, the older paradigms still exist in some of the more legacy companies, insurance companies, bigger banks, places, maybe manufacturing, although that could be changing now. So it really depends by industry, I think.
Right. Right.
And what happens is that if one company within an industry, and I think this is happening in the insurance industry, really owns the new way of doing things, they'll just blow out the competition and then everybody else has to adjust to keep up. So that's the good news, is that
Yeah.
I think it's changing in the right direction.
I know that this might not be the right words, but I see that as a competitive advantage. When your people know if there's open book management, or they know what's going on, they feel a vital part of it, and can have the excitement of it. So there's a lot of positive emotion
Yeah.
where their management or the people they work with support them through their issues, because everyone has them, and life's a wave, right? So there's up and there's down. But do you see that? So you feel in the reason I'm asking this is one of my other customers is an MD, and he's starting to do consulting in hospitals, and it's more on breath. It's actually fundamental core centering in yourself, because of the fear and the paradigm that people have been, the cultures have created. There isn't this centering in your gift. There's a centering outside yourself. And I see a lot of this being like breath, where it brings you back to your core.
Mhm. Yeah. In fact, every exercise I suggest, I always say, balance yourself, ground yourself, take a few deep breaths and feel into it. Absolutely. And I think that's a form of yoga, right? The breath. It is foundational to everything.
Right.
And I wanted to just relate back to what you were saying a minute ago about the fear in companies and people not being kept apprised of what's going on. So I went through a couple mergers and acquisitions, and
Yeah.
what I noticed is that nobody knew what was happening and everybody was in fear. And so all the good talent would leave, right? And then the next company would inherit everybody that maybe, there were still good people, but the superstars would
You
always
want the top.
flee, right? And so, yeah, so I just want to mention that.
Well, that's what I was doing at Arthur Andersen. I was the head of not below partner of the change enablement group, and we mostly did mergers and acquisitions and then education. And what the clash of cultures is always the most difficult part of mergers and acquisitions. Back then, they said over 70% of them failed.
Yeah.
And it was because of the culture, because and this fear, this terrible, oh, there's two of us, one of us will have to go
Yeah.
feeling, right?
Well, and
Right.
companies that set people in competition with each other on a team. I mean, that doesn't exist as much anymore, but it used to, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the Jack Welch model of you'd always lay off the bottom 10%. Like, why would you ever help your coworker if you knew that that might mean you go into the lower
Yeah,
slot.
but that might be the biggest gift that ever happened to them, that they were let go. See, that's the big picture of it is maybe they needed to have that experience, and that's all the experience they needed to have to do their gift in the world. So I want you to know that Colin Joe Byrne has said great soul here. So
Oh,
he's acknowledging you, and Ann Taylor's here, and Carson Gray's here. So you guys, if you have questions that we could talk about, we'd love to engage and support you from afar, even though you're not on the screen. You are in our hearts and in the chat. So if you have any comments or questions, we'd love to bring it into the conversation here. So Olivia, 5 years from now, if you had the most incredible dream of what you want, what would you want for this work? Because this work is much more than this book. This work is classes and presentations and consulting, and this is a paradigm shift
oh.
in corporate. That's the way I see it. What is your vision for 5 years from now that would give you the most thrill?
Well, thank you. What a great question. I think, first and foremost, I love writing. And so I want to keep writing and speaking and partner with people like you and others to get it. And I'm actually developing courses. Thank you for your help with that, that could be taken by individuals or organizations. And I'm happy to do things on site as well. So I think 5 years from now, I'd love to be doing lots of keynote speaking, have some more books out along these lines, maybe more specialized, and be just having an impact, maybe even growing people, a community of people who want to share this work and want
Okay.
to and just
I think,
really, I have it aimed at the workplace because I feel like it's one of the most, I'm going to say, dark places possibly on the planet. And corporations, large corporations, have, some of them are bigger than nation states. And so I feel like it's a huge opportunity. And when we bring this work into business, it changes families. I've been in leadership trainings where just somebody coming in to be a better manager ends up saving their marriage. It's all related. The community and the world at large would benefit. So
yeah,
that's kind of my vision. And I don't hold out. I'm not attached to the outcome in the sense that I don't need to see the effect. I just need to do this work because it's coming from my soul. And I
right.
now understand why I have this math interest and art-based interest, so I get to play with both sides of my brain.
Well, you are a superstar. I mean, I've worked with you, and you do what you say. You have an incredible integrity level. And I've worked with a lot of people over 19 years doing this work. And you are one of the superstars in my book for integrity. Colin put, perhaps Olivia can speak more about collaboration because I have the same position. So,
Mm.
so what I just did this past weekend was Co-Creators Convergence, where people get together that are like-minded that want to co-create, and all of that work came out of Barbara Marx Hubbard's work, which you're familiar with as well. But there's still ego. There's still ego and so much of it. And how do you see collaboration? I mean, this work heals you. It starts the healing process to shift you into being divine again.
Yeah.
But collaboration,
So
how do you
I
see it?
I see it as one of the, so I've already spoke about the opposite, which is companies that are siloed and have internal competition, things like that. So just logically, you can imagine that that's not going to support the company overall. So companies need to restructure in a way. And the way I love seeing it at collaboration is that in quantum physics, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, right? So if
Right.
two or more come together, there is this we space created that is actually has its own energy that can,
Let's go Pisces.
yeah, yeah. So it it allows for just magic, I think, to occur. So we can say, okay, we all agree collaboration is what we want, and then how do we get there? And that really does come back to working on ourselves and then working with each other, and having, it may even need facilitation initially if people are not understanding each other and getting triggered, but that will eventually get better if people keep working on it and not play victim, right? Take
Right.
responsibility for their own response. It's like nobody can make you feel anything without your permission. And so when somebody says to me, you make me mad, I just say, you know what? I'm not that powerful.
Uh,
I
well,
mean, sometimes it's a little, provocative, but it's true. We really have to always own every response we have. And so in collaboration, I think that it's a beautiful opportunity to grow and to see where we get triggered. And then in an organization, it has to be supported by the top level management. It just will never work unless the CEO is on board and is providing, and the leadership teams are providing the support and environment for it to be nurtured. And then they want what's coming out of it. So that's really key as well.
Well, I read a book called Cafe Gratitude. There was two books on conscious business that I read probably 3 years ago. And I read the conscious business one with Cafe Gratitude twice because they it's a restaurant that's based out of California. There's one in San Diego and one in LA. And their method of management is that none of the cooks or the wait people go out inside the restaurant waiting on people until they're cleared. So they get and they pay extra to have their managers come early and the people come early to have a time to spend together, so that if they had trouble at home the night before, their car, they had a car problem, they don't bring any of that energy into the business place. And that's what this, I think, part of this is that consciousness of empowering you to do that, so you don't have to go to the manager. You take the responsibility and empower yourself, which is this new interim time until we're more telepathic, more empathic. Although lots of people are getting more and more empathic every day with these new energies, but the empowerment is what I see is the blessing in all of your work.
Oh, thank you. And I think this book lends itself really well to, say, book clubs or people want to read in partnership and then work together. It's got some great exercises that just having somebody reflect back, it could be really powerful.
Right,
Barbara.
right. Well, so I've been putting your website up every once in a while here. So here we go. So this is Olivia's website. There is a link to her corporate database website also on the site. So if you want to see her vast experience and highly effective business database and IT work business, there is a link to that as well. But this is her new venture, and I am so glad she's doing this. This is the time, and this audience is so leaders touch maybe 100 people a day, and if we can get this kind of work out into the marketplace where they see the benefit of it, because happy employees do better work, and the frequency in the space, the business will do better altogether. And who doesn't want to live in that and work in that? So I'm very excited, and conscious businesses around the world should all know about this. That's why I was asking about your 5-year plan, because I truly see you teaching and
Nice.
going into corporate and seeing and being this is a competitive advantage to them if that's the only thing they understand.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you'd like to share here so people can get a hold of you? They've got the website, and if they want to learn more, they want you to come and speak to their group.
Please, yeah, just contact me through my website, or you can call me 215-948-3500 is my business line. Um, yeah, I would love to hear from anyone and everyone. I'm on LinkedIn, just Olivia Parr-Rud, and I have a page on Facebook, Love, Make It Your Business. So I post things on there around companies that are doing really cool things that I feel are very heart-centered. And yeah, I'd love to hear from anyone and everyone. Thanks.
And if you are a conscious business and this sounds intriguing, please reach out, because this is evolving, and I'm sure Olivia has these steps, but could take it way deep for your leadership. So
Yeah.
so this is a it's fundamental for the change. But
Thank you.
so that she has a capacity to teach you even so much more.
Oh,
And part of it is being in high integrity. That, as far as I can see, you are the poster child.
oh, thanks. And I
You
will say, I'm working on a course that I'm going to deliver online. Um, and it'll be somewhat interactive around creating deep connection in the workplace and why it matters. And then I'm going to have a course on self-love that'll be sort of a longer one that'll come out later this year.
so please go to her site. I'll put a active link in the comments, and please watch Olivia. Just watch and
Yep,
see
I
what she
just
does the next couple of years. You'll go, oh, I saw her a long time ago, but she's gonna really make a difference, and help us with the paradigm shift from fear to love. So
thank you.
thank you so much, and I just am your cheerleader anytime I can be.
Oh,
Okay.
thank
Oh yeah.
you.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, and please share this
Yeah.
if there's other people that you know would benefit from it. Thank you, everybody. Bye, Olivia.
Bye-bye.